Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about the New York Giants. Specifically, their quarterback situation.
Oh boy.
Which has taken a very interesting turn recently.
It has.
And we've got this great article to help us break it all down. It's called Giants' Stunning QB Change Comes with Plenty of Lingering Questions. And honestly, it's giving Shakespearean levels of drama.
It really is a lot more than just football, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's like a whole soap opera unfolding in the locker room.
Right. Like, what is going on over there?
Well, what's really fascinating to me is the timing of it all. The Giants are sitting at 2-8 right now.
Right.
So realistically, they're out of the playoff race.
Yeah.
But to bench Daniel Jones now, especially after they just gave him that massive contract extension.
Yeah, remind me about that contract. Like, how much are we talking here?
Oh, it was a huge deal. After a decent 2022 season.
Right.
I mean, they made the playoffs, even won a game.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
Big surprise.
Yeah.
But anyway, they decided to hand Jones a 4-year, $160 million extension.
Whoa.
That's a crazy amount of money.
It is.
Especially for a quarterback who, let's be honest, has been pretty inconsistent throughout his career.
Yeah, so we've got a quarterback with a massive contract riding the bench. But to make things even weirder, they're not even starting the backup Drew Lock.
Right.
They're going with the third stringer Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, what's the logic there?
Seriously?
Well, Coach Dable has been pretty vague about his reasoning. He keeps saying things like, we need a spark and we're trying to shake things up. But come on, you don't bench a $160 million quarterback just to shake things up.
Right. There's got to be some more to it.
Exactly. There has to be a strategy here.
Yeah.
So the article digs into some of the theories that are floating around.
Okay, lay it on me.
One theory is that they're trying to avoid a potential injury guarantee. You see, there's a clause in Jones's contract that if he gets injured while he's the starting quarterback, they have to pay him an extra $23 million. Yeah. So by putting him third string, he's unlikely to play and they avoid that risk.
So it's like an insurance policy on that massive contract.
Exactly.
Wow, that's pretty clever.
But then that raises another question. Why DeVito?
Yeah, why not give Drew Lock a shot?
I mean, they signed him to a 1-year, $5 million contract to be the backup.
Right. You'd think they'd at least want to see what he can do.
You'd think so.
Huh?
And this leads us to another theory, that they're tanking.
Tanking.
Yeah.
Tanking. For those of us who don't speak fluent football.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
What does that mean?
Tanking is when a team basically gives up on the current season to increase their odds of getting a high draft pick.
Okay, so they're intentionally trying to lose.
Pretty much.
Why would they do that?
Well, with DeVito as the starter, they're pretty much guaranteed to keep losing. Which puts them in a great position to get the #1 pick in the 2025 draft.
Yeah.
And that means they could potentially draft a franchise quarterback.
So they're sacrificing this season for a shot at a superstar in a couple of years. But doesn't that make the Jones contract situation even more confusing?
It really does.
If they're planning to draft a quarterback in 2025, why give Jones all that money?
It just doesn't add up, does it?
Not really.
It's a head scratcher for sure.
So we've got a potential financial play, a possible tanking strategy, and a whole lot of confusion about the Giants' long-term plan. What does this mean for Daniel Jones?
Well, the article says that Dable talked to Jones about the decision, but they're keeping the details of that conversation private.
I can only imagine how frustrated he must be.
Yeah, going from a playoff win to being benched for a third stringer in less than a year.
That's rough.
That's got to be tough.
I mean, you've got to watch this guy struggle for 6 seasons, barely winning half his games.
Right.
And then they hand him this massive contract, and then they bench him.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it really doesn't.
And that's why this situation is so fascinating. There are so many layers to this.
There are so many questions.
And we're just starting to peel them back.
Okay, so to recap, we've got a benched quarterback with a giant contract, a mysterious third stringer taking over, and the possibility of tanking looming over everything.
Yeah.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, the article goes on to talk about Dable and Schoen, the coach and the general manager.
Right, they're the ones calling the shots here.
They are.
So let's dive into that a little deeper. What's their track record like? And what does this decision tell us about their vision for the Giants?
So we were talking about this power duo, right?
Yeah, Dable and Schoen.
The coach and the general manager. What's their plan for this team?
That's the big question.
Are they trying to rebuild? Or are they trying to win now?
It's hard to tell.
I mean, they've only been together for a couple seasons. And their first year was pretty impressive.
Yeah, they made the playoffs.
Which nobody expected.
And they even won a playoff game.
Yeah, but this year...
This year has been a disaster.
2-8.
That's rough.
Yeah, and then they benched the quarterback they just gave $160 million to.
Yeah, it's a strange situation.
Are they feeling the heat? Oh, absolutely. They inherited a team with a lot of problems, not just at quarterback. And they're the ones who signed off on that massive contract for Jones.
So they're kind of stuck with him.
In a way, yeah.
So is benching him a way to protect themselves? Like, are they worried about their own jobs?
It's possible,
Yeah.
but I also think they're genuinely trying to figure out what's best for the team.
It's got to be a tough balance. Trying to win games, but also thinking about the long term.
Exactly. And that's what makes this decision so intriguing.
Right. On one hand, they have a quarterback who hasn't lived up to the hype, and they're trying to stay competitive. But on the other hand, they have this huge contract that's not looking so good. And they might be tempted to blow it all up and start over.
Exactly. And that's where the tanking theory comes back in.
Right. So if they're tanking, then starting DeVito makes sense.
It does.
They're basically guaranteeing more losses, which gives them a better shot at that #1 draft pick.
And a potential franchise quarterback.
But isn't that risky? What if DeVito isn't the answer?
It's definitely a gamble.
And what message does that send to the rest of the team? Like, are they giving up on the season?
It's a tough situation.
It is.
But if they truly believe that Jones isn't the guy, and they're committed to a full rebuild, then tanking might be the best option.
Even if it's not popular.
Yeah, even if it upsets the fans.
Speaking of the fans, they must be furious.
Oh, they are. They're not known for their patience.
I mean, think about it from their perspective. They finally have a winning season.
After years of mediocrity.
Make the playoffs even? And now the team seems to be intentionally throwing the season away.
It's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, I'd be upset too.
The article talks about how fans are voicing their displeasure. Online at the stadium, they're booing, they're calling for Dable and Schoen to be fired. It's getting ugly.
So we've got a frustrated fan base, a coaching staff under pressure, and a quarterback situation that's a complete mess.
It's a recipe for disaster.
What does this mean for Daniel Jones?
Well, the article speculates that this could be the beginning of the end for him in New York.
It does seem like they're sending him a message.
Yeah, benching him for the third stringer after giving him that huge contract. It's not exactly a vote of confidence.
Donald's not.
But he's still under contract. And that contract is going to be hard to get out of.
So even if they want to move on from him, they might be stuck with him.
It's possible.
Unless they can find a team to trade for him.
Which seems unlikely.
Given his recent performance in that massive contract.
Yeah, nobody's going to want to take on that kind of baggage.
So Jones might be stuck in limbo.
Benched unwanted, but too expensive to get rid of.
That's a tough spot to be in.
It is.
And speaking of tough spots, what about Tommy DeVito?
Yeah, the guy who's replacing Jones.
Is he the real deal? Or is he just a placeholder until they can draft their quarterback of the future?
That's the big question, isn't it?
The article doesn't really tell us much about him.
No, it focuses more on Jones and the coaching staff.
What do we know about DeVito? What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses?
Well, I did a little research outside of the article. And from what I've gathered, DeVito is known for his accuracy and his ability to make quick decisions.
Okay, so he's not a gunslinger.
No, he's more of a game manager.
Like a caretaker.
Exactly. And in this situation, that might be exactly what the Giants need.
Yeah, they've got a decent defense, a decent running game. They just need a quarterback who can manage the game and avoid mistakes.
Right, and maybe DeVito can do that.
So maybe he's not the long-term answer. But he could be valuable in the short term, especially if they're trying to protect their investment in Jones.
And set themselves up for that #1 pick.
Exactly.
It's a possibility.
So we've got this really interesting mix of factors. A struggling quarterback with a big contract, a potential tanking strategy, and a third stringer who might be a good fit for now.
And let's not forget about Drew Lock.
Oh, yeah. What about him?
He's still on the roster.
Sitting on the sidelines.
He was brought in to be the backup.
And he has NFL experience. So why isn't he getting a shot?
Good question.
What does this say about how the Giants view him? Do they think he's not good enough to be a starter? Or do they see him as more of a mentor for DeVito?
It's hard to say.
The article doesn't really address that. It's like he's the forgotten man in all of this. We're so focused on Jones and DeVito that we've kind of overlooked Locke's perspective.
And that's something we should keep in mind. We need to consider everyone's point of view.
Right, not just the players in the spotlight.
Exactly.
So to recap, we've got 3 quarterbacks, all with different skill sets, different contracts, different levels of experience, and a coaching staff that's trying to figure out how to make this work.
And a fan base that's not happy?
No, they're not happy at all.
They're the ones who are invested in the team. And they're the ones who will feel the impact of these decisions.
So how do we make sense of all of this? What are the key takeaways? What should we be watching for as the season unfolds? Okay, so we've talked about the players, the coaches, the contracts, the fans, but I think this whole Giants situation raises a bigger question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Who's really responsible when a team wins or loses?
Right. Is it the players? Is it the coaches?
The front office?
The owners, even?
Yeah, there's so many people involved.
So many moving parts.
And they're all connected somehow.
It's like a big tangled web.
It really is.
You've got the owners who are ultimately in charge.
Right. They set the budget, hire the general manager.
And they have the final say on big decisions.
Then you've got the front office,
led by the general manager,
who's responsible for putting the team together.
Drafting players, making trades, signing free agents.
And then, of course, there's the coaching staff,
who actually have to coach the players.
Come up with a game plan.
Make adjustments during the game.
And try to win.
And then you've got the players themselves.
Right. They're the ones who actually have to execute the plan.
And they all have different levels of talent and experience.
And then somewhere in that mix, you have the fans.
Oh, yeah. The fans.
That can be a powerful force.
They can put pressure on the team to win.
And their opinions can definitely influence decisions.
But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to leadership.
The coach and the general manager.
They're the ones who are ultimately accountable.
They're the ones who have to answer for the team's performance.
Right. They're the ones in the hot seat.
It's their job to create a winning culture.
To make the right personnel decisions.
And to put the players in a position to succeed.
Exactly. But of course, it's not always that simple.
There are so many factors that can affect a team's success.
Like injuries, for example.
Right. A key player gets hurt, and suddenly the whole season can change.
Or just bad luck.
Sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way.
And then there's the competition.
Some divisions are just tougher than others.
If you're playing against the best teams every week,
it's going to be hard to win consistently.
So how do you assess blame fairly?
Right. How do you separate the things that were within someone's control
from the things that were just bad luck?
That's the tough part.
It's easy to point fingers when a team is losing.
Especially the quarterback.
Right. The quarterback always gets the blame.
But you have to look at the bigger picture.
You have to consider the context.
The history of the franchise.
The resources that were available.
And the decisions that were made along the way.
Exactly. So in the Giants' case,
you can't just blame Daboll for the fact that Jones has had 5 different offensive coordinators in 6 years.
Right. That kind of instability is going to affect any quarterback.
It makes it hard to develop consistency.
And to build a strong relationship with your coaches.
So while the coach and the GM are ultimately responsible for the team's record, there's a shared accountability.
That extends to the owners, the front office, and even the players.
It really is a team effort.
For better or for worse.
So what happens now with the Giants?
Well, I'm curious to see how DeVito performs.
Yeah. Is he actually an upgrade over Jones?
Can he manage the game and avoid mistakes?
And what about Jones?
Yeah, what's his future with the team?
It's hard to say.
He's got that big contract, but they obviously have doubts about him.
Maybe he sits on the bench for the rest of the season.
And they try to trade him in the offseason.
Or maybe they give him another chance next year.
Hoping that a fresh start will help him turn things around.
And don't forget about Drew Lock.
Right. He's still in the mix.
Will he get a chance to prove himself?
Or will he just fade into the background?
So many unanswered questions.
Only time will tell.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
That's the nature of the NFL.
It's always unpredictable.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
All right. Well, that's our deep dive into the New York Giants quarterback situation. A lot to think about.
A lot of drama.
We've gone from a simple quarterback change to a discussion about leadership and the future of the franchise.
It's amazing how these things unfold.
So as the Giants season continues, pay attention to the decisions that are made, the performance of the players, and the reactions of the fans and the media.
It's a story that's still being written.
And we'll be here to break it all down for you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.